The mic is live, the youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage. We plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa youth economy switched on. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market.
Good afternoon. My name is Selebelo Selamolela, Sele in short. I'll be your host for this next segment of the Youth Plug. So I'm stepping out of the boardroom and into the airwaves to share real conversations with entrepreneurs, innovators, and creators who are shaping Africa's future. From those building thriving businesses and AI-driven solutions to other blending culture, technology, and community to inspire change. These are stories of resilience and purpose, showing that in Africa's fast-changing world of work, success is built on courage, creativity, and connection. Welcome to this conversation. As an aside, this broadcast is currently being streamed on your social media platforms. So you can go to YouTube, X, LinkedIn, I do believe Instagram, and TikTok. So you can select your platform of choice and you can join in the conversation. We've got an action-packed segment with 6 guests. I'll shortly welcome Andrew into the conversation. We'll be talking to him for the next half an hour. But before, as we welcome Andrew into the conversation, and as I frame, as for the themes that we'll be talking to, please bring in Andrew. Brilliant. Maybe as an aside, Andrew is my colleague. We work together. Currently, I think one of the interesting thing that we'll also get into, Andrew at some point, stepped out of the world of promising, corporate career. He was on track, and at the time, the younger self, that is, he stepped out and he had this great idea, to build a coffee business. So one of the things that we would like to explore, with Andrew, it's for him to take us through his thinking process. Why leave the comfort, of a secure corporate job, and step out in the big unknown, of running a business, which he did well in. So maybe before we begin, let's let Andrew introduce himself. Maybe you can let us know who he is, where he grew up from, before we step into this conversation. Good afternoon, Andrew.
Hi, Celia. Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks for, hello to everyone in the audience. So I think, I followed a fairly formal background in terms of going to university after school. I qualified as an accountant, and then I went and did my articles. And then once I'd finished my articles, I actually went overseas for a little bit. And then came back and started to work in the corporate sector. It took me a little while to figure out that I wasn't so good at day in, day out jobs. and I was actually much better doing projects. So doing things where I was constantly learning and constantly being challenged to solve problems. So yeah, I think that's very much the background side. I went the we're going to call it a like the formal route into a big corporate, and then actually at one stage I ended up at one of the large banks here in Johannesburg, and that was actually where the whole idea for coffee started. I think we were. I had some friends, and every lunch we used to go and down the road and have some lunch, and we'd always end off with an espresso, and that was really my introduction to coffee, or more sophisticated kind of coffee. And anyway, the conversation got to, well, the coffee inside the bank where we work, it's not great, and the service is not great. We should do something about it. And that was very much the beginning of the journey, Sele, into the entrepreneur world.
No, awesome. No, thanks for that context. You know, and I think one of the interesting thing is, you've got a few folk, within corporate who have great ideas, but they would, yeah, sit on it, and not live it out. I think usually there are two things. I think one is, I think, comfort. I think being comfortable, with the salary and the perks. I think the other is fear of the unknown. So how did you make that big jump, that big leap?
Yeah, I mean, I always had something in the back of my mind that one day I was going to own my own business or start my own business, and I wasn't quite sure what that was. And this coffee conversation really opened something up. And I mean, at the time, I was sort of at this bank, and I was thinking about moving into a different area, and they saw me very much as a specialist. So that was frustrating me, and I thought, well. Um, you know what, I can actually go out and be a gun for hire somewhere as a consultant. Um, Let me take a chance here and open up this coffee business. So that's actually what happened. Is I was still employed at the bank, and the coffee business opened. I think today in today's environment with all of this corporate governance, you wouldn't really be able to do that. So selling services into the same business that you're working for. But at the time, I had that opportunity, and actually managed to pull it off. So to convince the bank that we could bring in really good coffee, and also it was really at the start of coffee culture in South Africa, um, and I mean, what we brought in was probably, it was something that I'd actually seen in the States, funny enough, a couple of years before. Um, and took that idea and brought it into like the South African corporate environment.
No, brilliant, brilliant. I think you mentioned I think a point, in passing. I think you called, the coffee revolution, I think, before it had definitely played out. Yeah, so I think great vision on your part. You know, and I think another segment I would like to explore, how did, working corporate, help, in your startup, adventure, were there any translations?
Yeah, I think there were definitely translations. So one was because I was in this bank, I understood who all the relevant people were that would make this decision, and how the bank actually made a decision to bring in an outside supplier. I was also able to lobby a lot of the people that would influence the decision. So in this case, there were a lot of, I was in the investment bank, and there were a lot of people that I knew from having worked there, and really sort of senior people that were interested in us bringing really good coffee into the building. So I was able to leverage the fact that I knew these people and get some time with them and say, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. Will you support this? So I think that was the one thing. And then from another perspective is having qualified as a chartered accountant, um, which in itself is like I'm going to call it a risk manager type of role. Is accountants are very risk averse. Um, I also through that learned one, to identify risks and how you mitigate them. But then the other thing is all of the requirements in setting up the admin and the accounts and the tax and the payroll, all of those type of skills I'd picked up through my training, and I was able to apply those in the business as we started. So it was always, we started up like in a very structured way, um, I suppose that was one of the things I really enjoyed doing, was like building the operations of this business. Is how do we make sure that it runs properly and efficiently, and how do we make sure that it's got enough cash, like for change in the till? How do we make sure that we measure sales properly? Things around margins and costing, which are incredibly important to businesses. And I also used to actually look at cash. I mean, because everyone will tell you cash is king, and it definitely is king in a business like this. And you've got to have your hand on what is actually happening and be able to forecast into the future, and see whether you're going to have enough cash to cover all of your expenses going forward. So I think yeah, certainly a lot of learnings. The other thing was also in terms of structure and the way that we set up, and that the way that we trained and developed our people. That was also very intentional, the way we did that, and it was something that came out of my corporate experience.
That's fantastic, because I think a lot of the time, I think folk, would say that the lessons learned, in corporate, don't directly translate, in the world of startup. So I think it's great seeing, that playing out, in your story. No, that's fantastic. No, no, brilliant. And then I think another theme, as you've been following, it's around how do we solve, unemployment. I think in your case, I think you grew the enterprise, and managed to, I think employ over 100 people. So it's quite interesting. Is I think you pursue the idea, and then the jobs followed. So I thought that's quite interesting. Is it something that you explicitly targeted, to actually create jobs, or you just had this idea, and once this idea, caught fire, everything, I think came into place.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things, one of the goals that I'd actually set for myself, and I mean, I'm not even sure where this goal comes from, but I wanted to create a business which created employment for over 100 people, and we actually managed to achieve that in the 10 years. Is from scratch. Initially, I think we had 2 or 3 employees, and then it really just grew over the years, up to 100 or so employees, and yeah, I think, I mean, one of the intention was definitely to employ people, um, and our belief was very much that you can take, um, what's really important is someone's character, and their nature, as opposed to they can make coffee. So we can teach someone to make coffee, but I can't teach someone to stand at a counter the whole day and to smile at customers and interact with them. So it takes a very special type of person, um, to be able to do that, and that's really what we were so focused on, is getting the right people in that just love customers, they could remember customers' names, and I mean, what evolved over time is, at our coffee bars, we only employed ladies. So we didn't employ any men. And that was an sort of an active, like, part of our culture and the way that we structured things. So in other parts of the business, so we did have men, so on the delivery side, and we had a central kitchen, and we also had a coffee roastery. There were men employed there, but actually at the coffee bars, we only employed women, and that was something that's like just naturally evolved over time. Um, and I mean, just given that. I think our requirements were someone had to have a matriculant certificate, um, but what they did need to really have was customer service, or the ability to work with customers, and that's what we actively looked for, is whether they did have that experience, and they were willing to serve customers and to smile at them the whole day and to interact with them, and in particular to remember their names.
Wow, that's impressive. I mean, I didn't know that was intentional. I think I was one of your your big customers. Yeah, and I also quite like I think your take, because I think the skill of being a barrister and so forth that you can teach, but I think the essence of loving people, loving customers, work ethic. I mean, those are I think difficult to teach. So yeah, that's very impressive. So I think another aspect I would like to explore. They maybe there are many other people who are sitting at the cusp. The other professionals, young professionals, and they've taken the leap. I mean, what advice would you have for these folk?
So I'll actually answer that in terms of like my story is what happened was as I was said, I was becoming frustrated where I was working in the bank, and they didn't want to move me into an area that I wanted to go to, and I actually ended up leaving, and I didn't have anything lined up, and that was at the time that the coffee business started. So for the first couple of months, I was just working on coffee and supporting my brother, who was also in the business, started up. Um, and then what happened is I actually got a call from one of the other banks saying, "Hey, we need someone on this particular project." And they said, "Well, can you come in and work?" And I said, "Well, I've only got 2 days a week." And they said, "Well, can you do more?" And I said, "No, I've only got 2 days a week." So anyway, I ended up working 2 days a week. Um, and the other 3 days were in the coffee business. And then over time, over the next 10 years, what actually happened is I was working 3 days consulting and 2 days in the coffee business. And slowly but slowly, the actual business grew, and I was able to then eventually work full time in the business because it was big enough, or it was making enough profits to sustain me. Um, so it was a case of I'm going to call it hedging my bets, or having an alternative income stream, in terms of still doing corporate work, but in a consulting capacity, as opposed to keeping my job. And I suppose if I had to give advice to someone who is working in corporate, I'd say keep your job, start your business on the sort of on the sidelines. If there's a take up in the thing, and you see customers are loving whatever you are selling, and you see there's growth opportunities, that grow the business, doing it part time, um, and then hopefully it'll get big enough and you can transfer. But I think. I mean, if I had to think about the coffee business, and people would often say, "Oh, this business is doing so well. You're selling so much coffee." I would say to them, "Okay, well, a cup of coffee costs 30 rand. That's what a customer pays for it. Let's say 15 rand, so 50% is actually the profit, the gross profit that you make on this thing. I want you to calculate off that 15 rand, or actually, I'm going to take another 5 rand off for overheads. So you've only got 10 rand per cup of coffee. I want you to calculate how many cups of coffee you need to sell in a month to replace your corporate salary, or to replace your salary. So do that calculation, and then work out whether it's worthwhile leaving or not, or like what it's going to require to replace your corporate salary. It's definitely, my advice is keep your job on the sidelines. If it starts to get some traction, then great. I suppose the other thing is, if you've got a partner, or let's say a wife or husband that has full-time employment, that's also a way of mitigating your income risk, is they're going to be employed while you go off and you try and start something. Um, but yeah, definitely hedge your bets. And don't just leave your job and think that this business is going to be a success. Um, that would be my advice.
No, awesome, awesome. No, spoken like a risk manager, definitely. Maybe just to close off, this idea. I mean, I think I'm sure I mean, in hindsight, I think when you made the decision to step out, to go into the business, you probably thought you're probably closing the door to a corporate career, but in your case, it was not the case. So I think it was almost seamless. It was easy for you to get back into corporate career. How did you find that transition? Especially from a risk point of view. It looks like you didn't completely close the door to career. To career in corporate when you decided to get back in it.
No, I think, I mean, like my view with things is relationships with people are incredibly important. So the network that I built while I was working in that big bank, not just from working there, but also from people that I met around there, was really important. And when I left, is very intentionally is to make sure that those relationships remain. So even if there's a boss or there are people that you don't like, is to leave on a good note and not to I don't know, upset the person in some way because now you're leaving and you don't care about it. That person may well come back, or they may come back into your life at some point in the future. And it's so important that that relationship is still a good relationship, so that you can call on that person and say, hey, let's have coffee. I'd love to hear where you are. And actually, I like, in terms of coming back into the corporate environment for the last, or certainly the beginning part of this year, is I had the opportunity to meet up and to network with a lot of people that I'd known previously from when I worked in the banks, and really just to catch up with them and see where they were and how they were doing. And that was like this most wonderful opportunity that I did have. And that was also part about coming back into, I'm going to call it the corporate environment.
No, awesome. Yeah, I think this is all the time we have for the segment. Those are definite pearls of wisdom that you shared. Really appreciate it. Maybe before we go for an ad break, any last remarks on your end, Andrew?
Yes. So I think, I mean, you believe in yourself. Wherever you might be, particularly if you're in corporate, is make the most of being in corporate. So network with the people, learn as much as you can from them. If you have access to learning through the corporate, then definitely grasp those things with two hands. So learn as much as you can while you are there, so that when you do leave, you take all of that knowledge with you. And network is so important. Don't leave on a bad note.
Awesome. No, thank you, Andrew, for sharing generously. We definitely appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Ele. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa youth economy switched on. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa youth economy switched on.
Awesome. I believe we've got our next guest. So his name is Joseph Okonkwo. He's actually based in Abuja. Yeah, we'll hear his story yeah, shortly. Yeah, Joseph is a 3D artist and a digital creator. He actually blends engineering precision with artistic stories, yeah, to bring African culture into mainstream gaming and digital art. Um, his journey from mechanical engineering to 3D design reflects the power of creativity, technology, and representation shaping Africa digital future. Welcome, Joseph.
Good morning, Sarah. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
No, awesome, awesome. I think it's still morning on your end, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
No, thank you for making the time. Yeah, when I reached out to Joseph, yeah, he didn't hesitate, to be part of this conversation. Yeah, we definitely appreciate, your willingness to share your insights and adding to this conversation.
No problem.
No, brilliant. Maybe before we begin, maybe you could just let us know more about yourself. Where did you grow up? And how did you get into the space that you're in?
Okay. As you said, I'm a 3D journalist. My background is in engineering. So, I'm born and bred in Abuja. So I've been here all my life. Then, like I said, my background is in engineering. How I got into this space, actually, I will attribute it to COVID because I was dabbling in it a little bit, like creating trading models before I graduated. But on my final year, we had to come home for like maybe 5 months thereabouts because of COVID. And I was like, okay, what am I doing now? I could go and like work where I did my IT, or I could just go online and start making stuff. So I was like, okay, and I focused in on that. And after my graduation, I went and I joined Big Frame Studios, and they made ads at the time for companies, 3D ads, and I joined them. And uh, from there, the journey just kept on going. After Big Frame, I did like a training with Del York and Mastercard, and after that, right where I am now with Fanimura Studios, where we are bringing African culture to mainstream games. And our first project, in case anyone's now, is Afro Street Racing. It's like a racing game. But we like environments that Africans that we recognize, right? All our mainstream games usually they have all these Western styles. Like we don't really see any part of ourselves in it. So that's what we plan to change.
No, awesome, awesome. This is great. Yes, this is yeah, it's definitely great. I mean, there's this book that I'm reading. It's called The Goliath. I mean, one of the ideas that they share in the book is, I mean, obviously in history, I think yeah, people who yeah have told stories around civilization and so forth, yeah, tended to be the I think the wealthy, so even if when you look at history, it's through the lens of wealthy people, be it the pharaohs and so forth. Yeah, so I quite like. I mean, you saw that there is a gap, I mean, around our stories, being told, and that being part of the tapestry, and you did something about it. No, that's awesome. You know, yeah, maybe a question for you is, I think merging I think engineering and storytelling. I mean, what inspired you to make that shift? Because it's not straightforward. Usually get analytically minded people, and creatives, but yeah, you seem to have made that switch quite swiftly.
Okay, the switch. I'll say the when you start working in this field, there are a lot of technical aspects as well. So my background actually is a big advantage for me. like no knowledge is a waste, no matter where anyone is coming from, right? They don't have to be, they don't have to have a technical background or anything, right? No knowledge is a waste. It will always help, like when you're moving forward. So this the creative field is like it's constantly changing. There are new tools every day, every time. You have to always keep you have to keep abreast with the new tools, keep learning. And the fact that I have that background, that technical background, it enables me to pick those tools fast, right? And then it has taught me like problem solving, so you can pick apart any issue that you come up with. You come up with a lot of issues as a 3D artist, a lot of issues. So you have to break it down and solve it as you go. So it just it's like the perfect field because after I graduated, so initially I worked on cars. I did a lot of other stuff in between, but now currently I'm actually working on cars again, but it's now in the digital field. So all the knowledge I have before, it just blends in perfectly. So yeah, it's perfect for me.
No, awesome. No, awesome to have seen. I think to have made that link. I mean, you could also tell that you are a naturally, I think, curious person. I think connecting the dots. That's great. That's great to see. Let me put this to you. I mean, how does African culture then influence like your digital creation? How do you bring that in the mix?
Okay, okay, for that, I'll say, honestly, initially, it didn't really affect much because I was just like, after Big Film, I was freelancing, I was like trying to give, so usually to the Western markets, I'm trying to make things for them. But then after the training I did later, I recognized that there was a huge opportunity, especially when we started making this game. I realized there was a huge opportunity because we had to find already made assets by a small team. Let's find already made assets. There were none, right? Assets for the environment, you will not find any. So it's actually there's a huge opportunity. Like it's a blank slate. Anyone can go in and you're at the top of the wave. So that's basically it. And then because of that, now we started to focus mainly on African culture because it's a blank slate. We're at the top of the wave already. So anyone can just come in right now and just make like assets for maybe their city, random assets, that people will need when they are making content that relates to them, right? So like
Mm.
the when we're making ours, we made our stadium, we made our like there's this huge the monuments that are around us, the city gate, made things like that. Obviously, we're not we're not putting it out because we made them by ourselves. But maybe when we finish our game, we'll put it out. But let's say someone is not making a game or anything, they can put those out and sell them to other African 3D artists. Okay, because to save a lot of time and they are non-existing at the moment. Okay, so that's because of that huge opportunity. I'll say that's what has brought the influence into my work. I'm now trying to position myself properly, and I'll say the global audience as well because all the games that we've been playing, they are kind of at some point now they're having the same kind of feel. They're just recycling it, you see. But African content is very very different. So anyone that sees it is like it's just original, right? So anyone that sees it is something new to the global audience. It's something that everyone is like a breath of fresh air. Okay, so it's a very huge opportunity, and that's why it's encouraged me to like push forward in that space.
No, awesome. I mean, as you've been speaking, I'm just hearing opportunity, opportunity, opportunity.
It's huge.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, what advice could you give? I think young people, young Africans looking to get into the creative tech space. What advice would you give them?
Okay. First, I know that there's kind of like a little barrier to entry because you have to have like a system first of all, but like we are seeing like awesome tech being released, right? You have a lot of open. If you can just if you have like a system, you've done the hard part already, right? Because you have different open source softwares. You have Blender, you have Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine they won't charge you, and it's Blender is completely free. Unreal Engine they won't charge you anything until you made your like first million. So I think at that point you'll be happy to pay. And there are lots of other free software, open source software that you can make use of. So it's actually reducing the barrier to entry. So they are still the only problem you have like to get yourself a good system that you can work with and internet access, and that's all. So my advice to the young Africans out there that want to get into the creative tech space is that it's easier than ever at this point. Okay, it's easier than ever. So don't be intimidated by anything. Just go get the software that you need, completely free, and you just start learning little projects, project by project. You don't need to because in this field you have to show your work before you can. Let's say if you're looking for an employment, you have to actually have like a build up of projects that you've done to show. So you just start learning little projects, and before you know it, you're something already.
No, that's brilliant. I mean, I think that sense I'm getting, you almost you don't necessarily have to wait. You can start now.
You don't have
You
to
know,
wait. You don't have to wait. Yes, exactly.
yeah, you can build your portfolio. And start doing maybe much more advanced. I think projects that stretch you. And then I think this is what will unlock, some of the bigger opportunities.
Yes, yes, 100%, 100%. I think we'll see a bunch of as we go forward, we'll see a bunch of little studios pop up. Because right now I'm seeing there are a lot of little studios in Nigeria currently. I know there are some in Kenya as well, but like most of them are still small. But over time, I'm sure that because the power center has reduced, right, the amount of effort that we need to put in to create like to compete with um, the global industry has reduced. A lot of few people can just come together and bring out something exceptional. So we'll see a lot of new studios pop up.
No, no, definitely, definitely. I mean, I think we met. I think we attended I think it was a venture capital, I think forum. I think the theme was around Africa and yeah, some other themes. So yeah, I think this is yeah definitely. I think one of the sector segments. That yeah, it's created I think a lot of excitement and interest.
Yes.
From an investment point of view. So that's very interesting.
Thank you.
No, cool. Yeah, I think you've already spoken, yeah, to this, around um, yeah, opportunities we're seeing, in Africa, in gaming and digital design. Yeah, it sounds like the endless. I mean, in your view, what would be the top two, biggest opportunities that are currently, underserved? Yeah, in your view.
Okay, the top two opportunities that I'm seeing. That would be have to have to say like the gaming. Okay, the gaming industry actually is just so that everyone is aware is bigger than the movie and music industry combined, right? And we don't have a large stake in that at all. So if you just analyze that alone, you will see how much space that we have to cover. Okay, how much gap that there is. Okay, so that's a huge opportunity right there, the gaming field. Yeah, and we have solo developers popping up everywhere. Like I said, to the young Africans, it's the perfect opportunity for them. So that's an opportunity they can take charge of. And also we have the like I was an animator when I was in Big Frame. In animation as well, we've seen Hollywood try to get African stories. We've seen Disney partner with which studio was this? Was it Ant Hill? They brought out this Iwaju. So there are a lot of people. There people can also create African stories, not just gaming, like animation, 3D animations, maybe or like this Bluey, this thing for kids. There's like I know there are some people that are doing like all these YouTube stories, but it's focused on children. But like I'm Igbo by the way, but it's like an Igbo where they teach kids how to speak Igbo, but they use 3D animation to do it. So there are a huge there's a huge amount of this and there because no one is doing it. No one is teaching your language for you, right? I'm sure there are the different languages that are in South Africa 3D artists can go, they can get all those, they can get the skills, they can create those 3D those shows for kids, teach them how to speak their languages. It becomes mainstream, right? Your language is not something that is niche now or out of the way. Someone has said it somewhere before, like, okay, yeah, I know. You hear German, you're like, okay, it's not surprising. But in some languages, you hear them, oh, I've never heard them before, something like that, right? And also, I think those are the two major fields, just animation and gaming. Animation will we tell our stories by ourselves, let no one tell it for us, right? I, especially that language stuff is very important. And okay, and the gaming aspect as well. On all of this will bring African culture to the mainstream. All of this brings African culture to the mainstream. So at the same time, we're achieving that purpose. So I think it's perfect. Those are the two big opportunities.
No, awesome, awesome. I think another theme that you touch on, I think the main, I mean, people who consume the content is actually Africans, and especially some of the ideas that you've mentioned,
Yes,
around I think language and that type of content.
yes.
Actually, we would be the markets. Actually, you would be selling or positioning these products, to Africans.
Africans.
Mm.
That's true. Because I know that when I was doing my and they say we have a large consumer base, right? But I know when I was doing my research for the game, I knew that Call of Duty Mobile, right? This mobile game in Nigeria was making like $10,000 per week. That was like a few years ago. And I was looking which other Nigerian game is there on mobile, right? And you don't see anyone. I think now we have a few. We have Legend of Orisha in making. We have these Malio games. I don't really know any of their top games, but like a few have come out at this point now. So at that, because the Africans right now are consuming Western content, right? So this is obviously if you give me a game now that I see my environment, I want to play that because okay, it's familiar to me. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. There's a huge market. You market to other Africans as well. And the cost of all these developments. I know the gaming industry outside is having issues, but like here, I don't know about South Africa, but here is you can like I'll say you can kind of undercut your global competition because the cost to develop is not as high as they'll have it, right? All you need to just get the skills and you can compete with them fair and square.
Yeah, that's awesome. I read a book a few years ago, but it was based in the US. I think they call it micro trends. I think one of the trends they were tracking then, it's probably 20 years ago. It's around gaming in adulthood. So it's not. I mean, gaming doesn't stop. Once people move from being teenagers and adolescents. People still play games as a form of recreation. In the adulthood. So I'm sure it's an entrenched, trend like today. Which I think, for us, it means it's a big market, for gaming.
It's a very big market. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 definitely. No, not, yeah, definitely. Cool. Yeah, but I think you've covered, I think a lot of I think the major themes, and maybe as we draw to a close, what has been sort of the biggest hurdle? I mean, you haven't mentioned funding, which is interesting. But yeah, in general, what has been sort of the biggest hurdle? Yeah.
The biggest hurdle, funding. I think the biggest hurdle is just to get the skills. Okay, and the funding is like is not. You just need like an initial something to kickstart you because, like I said, once you have a setup, a good setup, you have a system, you have internet access, and then just to get the skills, to get the courses, to get to learn. Okay, because once you have those skills, you have your equipment. It's now left to you, right? The funding, maybe you want to, when you want to, maybe when you've made something, you know how to market at that point. But when you reach that point, you already have something to show, right? So the funding, I think the funding will be, it will be a little. We've tried to get funding actually. We went to Lagos at one point, and it was actually a good experience because out of there was a competition out of like Abuja and Lagos. We were in like the top 10. But unfortunately, we didn't get the funding there. But it doesn't. It's not a problem. We just you can still keep on working on it. Because the funding, if you want to have, like I said, once you have your equipment, it's at the end that you need the funding. Although there were some three studios that got funding. There was this studio that did virtual African apparel, right, in 3D. You could design African apparel in 3D, showcase it, things like that. They got their funding. It's awesome. So once people see that this is going to work, once they see the end product, the funding shouldn't be a problem. Funding shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't limit you. Once you have your setup, you're good to go. At the
Mm.
funding can come at the end. It shouldn't limit you.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, brilliant, brilliant. I think many years ago, I visited Nigeria, also spent some time in Abuja. I think before I got to Abuja, I thought it would be like an administrative, I mean, capital, city where it's rigid and so forth, but when I got there, like I think there was, I mean, the sense of, entrepreneurship, it's almost as on par as Lagos. I think that was refreshing yet to see. I mean, I can see, I mean, even in your approach to solving, some of these problems, I mean, you've got this can do, like mindset,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's quite impressive. I mean, I usually say, you know, um, one of the bucket lists for each African, is just to spend some time in Nigeria, just to catch, uh, just that hustle, that buzz, that energy. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, as we close, are there any maybe last, comments, idea you want to share, before we close for a break?
Um, Okay, I think that's about it. Just the anyone that's watching that wants to get into the field, just know that the barriers to entry is as low as possible right now. There are free softwares. When I started learning with Maya. So it's like a student version. Maya I still paid up to now. At some point, I just switched to Blender because Blender came out and it was big and all of that. So there are free resources, YouTube free tutorials. There are very little things limiting you right now. So this is the best time that you can get in on it. That's just what I'll say to those watching.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. No, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights. And your willingness, to step in. You definitely appreciate it. Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch, and yeah, we'll definitely be watching. Yeah, you shooting the lights out. In the gaming sector.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Enjoy the rest of your. I think it's morning. Yeah, in your side of the world.
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Awesome. As we go to a break now.
The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa Youth Economy switched on. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa Youth Economy switched on.
Awesome. I think we do have some time, whilst we wait for our next guest. So it will also be a very interesting conversation we will have. So that will be with Masebo, but more about that later. I hope you enjoyed the first two segments we have. Starting with Andrew. He's actually my colleague. Just sharing some of these insights. I think what I liked in particular, with Andrew's story is, you find a lot of folk, who are pursuing, a professional career, but they have this great, entrepreneurial idea. I mean, many folks would sit on the idea and not, test it out there in the market. So I think it was interesting just to explore that with Andrew. How do you navigate, that space? I think it's about how do you manage risk. It's about how do you overcome fear. How do you step out there and believe in the idea. So he definitely just took us in into his mindset and how he approached and lived out that segment of his entrepreneurial endeavors. And then I also quite liked his parting remark, because he did this entrepreneurial journey for over a decade. I think shortly after that he then went back into corporate. And obviously looking outside in, it looks like it was an easy transition. So I wanted to figure out how he navigated that transition. I think his parting comment around relationships, and not burning down bridges. I thought that was quite useful. And I think what's also important, is I think a lot of the time, people will reach out when they need something, but I think what I could sense from his story is, I think he naturally just, maintained, those connections, those relationships, even though he didn't need anything, So I think that's I think, good insights, that he shared. And then the conversation with Joseph, was also quite I think interesting. He's based in Abuja, Nigeria. I know I made a comment, in that sort of the closing segment, of our conversation, around. I think being in Abuja, I thought it was an administrative. It is an administrative capital of Nigeria. Typically, it would be, filled with government offices and so forth. And you would imagine it would be quite rigid. Especially when it comes to sectors, like folk who are in the entrepreneurial space. But then my observations, when I went there, is the sense of entrepreneurism, in the capital, was just as out there as in Lagos. So that was I think great to see. And then I think the other takeaway, it's around this pragmatism, to, like, in entrepreneurship. Yes, he has targeted, in a sector that requires, the deep skills, be it in tech, engineering, and then also, sort of the creative space, and I think that, the way he had approached, making an impression in that sector, you almost get a sense he bootstrapped it. I think self-lend, and I think he accessed, I think a lot of the, the platforms, that are readily available, which also speaks to this idea that, I think access to, to skills and so forth, has been democratized, and it's created access, I think more broadly. No, awesome. So so that's just my takeaway from the last two speakers. Now we'll transition, and I'll introduce my next speaker, Masebo Mdluli. So he's the founder of Do and Productionize in Orlando West, Soweto. He's actually my neighbor. I grew up in Diepkloof. And as we all know, Orlando, that's where all the other peace laureates also lived. Mandela, Desmond Tutu. So a lot of great things, come out of Orlando. He's a creative entrepreneur using hip hop, to uplift local talent and create real pathways for youth in the arts. So I'll just invite Masebo in his own words, maybe just to introduce himself, where he grew up and how he got into hip hop. Good day.
Good day, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Yeah, we can.
All right, cool. My name is Mdluli from Orlando West, and I've been pop more than 15 years now. I own a company called Do You Production, where I invite talented people to come through and showcase their skills by recording them and give them the platform, like the mistape that I'm doing called Grab the Mic, Rap Your Hood. I invite every talented rapper through and record and give them the platform to show the skills that they have.
Awesome, awesome. No, good stuff, good stuff. So, I mean, I think what I'll put to you, I mean, how do you go about, yeah, finding or identifying these talented artists? Yeah, like how do you go about finding these talented artists?
I used to do grab the mic sessions. The sessions is about the hip hop event. So we used to host grab the mic each and every month. So they will come and register and then perform there, like the DJs and MCs. And then yeah, on social media as well, follow us because I have a page of grab the mic. So I've who always text me, who always looking for opportunity to be part of that I'm busy with, like the mixtape. Busy now, I'm recording the volume 2. So that's how they found out about the platform that I'm busy creating for myself and them, So it's through events, it's through social media, and the session that we used to host, which is Grab the Mic. So I found them through those platforms.
Nice, 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 great, great. Because I mean, you are building a creative, business. Maybe for you, I mean, what has been the biggest lessons? Maybe one or two that you're happy to share.
The biggest lessons is, first of all, is to take your craft seriously. I mean, if you're working with people, and especially young people, they need to look up into you. They need to be inspired by you, by your work. So um, I've take my creativity and into another level now. Do you production? I don't as a record company only, but I see it more as a creative hub where young people they can come and learn more about the industry, learn about more about creative the artist. So there's a place at Villagaza Street that I'm looking to rent in the future. They just gave me that, but I need to pay every month. So I'm busy working on that. So I think that's where I'm gonna open the creative hub where I can host workshops for students uh, that are focused on creativity and music, business wise, in terms of business, music, to understand more of business side of the creativity, not just the music. So I'm looking forward to open that in the future.
No, awesome. It's great to hear that, you're building on the idea, and yeah, that's definitely, great to hear. I think what's interesting is, as you work with young people, what role does mentorship, play, just, grooming these young people, from discovering that talent, to yeah, to opening up an opportunity. Like, what mentorship does it play? The role of mentorship.
It plays a lot. I mean, uh, what I do, it also changes lives. It also give them opportunity to stay away from bad things in the street. I mean, the youth of today are involved in drugs, are involved on bad things, basically. So I think if this thing saved my life, like hip hop sessions, they saved my life. That's why I always say hip hop saved my life. So I think if I survive all through bad things, I can also give back to them, try to show them the right way, how to, do the right things to achieve your goals without any bad influence, wrong directions, and So I think I'm more into that than just doing music. I changed lives, so I think I'm a right person to.
Sure, that's amazing. I think just finding your sense of purpose, how that has also translated in helping other young people also find their way, find their purpose, and something, or find it that's something to, yet to look for. I think that's just amazing. Yeah, I think this question, I don't know what your thoughts are. How do you see like the creative industry, and I think try help or solve some of the challenges that we see, be it youth unemployment, and social inequality. What role, like in your mind, do you think the creative industry can help in solving some of these big challenges?
Uh, in our economy, build the structure of entertainment itself. I think it's very important for the government to the entertainment art like us, especially us independent artists who are trying to make a change in this world, in this country. We lack of support from the government. If we can get more funding and more opportunities, more events, more festivals. In fact, we need more festivals in different pop festival. Anything goes with entertainment. I think government needs to put more hand on that because there's more jobs for us. As a creative, I don't think I know it's we must do 9 to 5 in order to. As a creative, I don't think you need to do 9 to 5 and then you do your meal. I mean, there's people like Black Coffee. If Black Coffee can buy a house from Cape Town of 100 million.
I think you might have lost Mcebo, I think, for now. So we'll just wait for him, just to reconnect. I think he's.
It means that the cream.
Oh, you're back. Okay, you can continue.
Saying we need more. We need more support from the government and supporters because we need fundings. We need, in order to us to another level.
No, definitely. I think yeah, collaboration. I think with yeah various stakeholders within the entertainment industry. I think including I think government funders, artists, and many other stakeholders. I think that's definitely that's definitely key. You know, yeah, yeah, no, yeah, yeah, totally. Agree with that. Um, yeah, and then yeah, I think another question I wanted to unpack. Like what advice would you give young people who want to turn passion in a career? Let's say besides music, let's say they're passionate about you know uh, let's say the beauty industry, or they've got other passions. What advice would you give them if they want to convert that into a career?
The advice I can tell each and every one of them: take yourself serious, believe in yourself. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. Always found advice to anyone who's doing the similar thing. Go there, humble yourself, tell them who you are, what you do, how can they help you to take your career to another level. Stay true to yourself, man. Always believe in yourself and do you. Like that's why I call my production "Do You Productions." So it means like do you, go for whatever you believe in.
Oh, okay, I get it now. It's Do You Production. No, that's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Go
No,
out there
no,
and do
that's
you.
pretty good. Yeah, sure. No, that's quite great. You know, um, Maybe I think one other questions. So how do you keep I think being authentic, as a hip hop, I'm an artist, and then also trying to build a business. I think usually there could be some friction there. You know, yeah. How do you navigate that space?
No, first, I think because I love what I do, first of all, I think that's the main is it's been pushing me to do more because I love what I do, and hip hop is. I think hip hop is the number one tool that we can use to empower our youth and change the mindset that they have. Like hip hop a lot. Can learn a lot because even the songs, you have a song that tells you about the lifestyle. You have a song that tells you about the life challenge. Um, you don't have a friend that you can talk. Go to your system and listen to Tupac, and you'll get all answers that you're looking for. So I think hip hop. We need to take it serious in South Africa. It's the biggest platform that do amazing and change lives as well. So uh, that's why I love what I'm doing. Like I keep doing it. I don't know until when, but as long as I'm still changing lives, I think I'll keep doing it.
No, awesome, awesome, awesome. Um, yeah, no, this is I've enjoyed this conversation. I think just reflecting, from I think what you said, today, and also in the preparations, leading up to this conversation. I think things that have sort of stayed with me. I think the one is, I think you are professional. I think one of the things that you mentioned today is, taking yourself seriously. I think in my engagement, in preparing for today's conversation, I think the level of professionalism, it's on par to what you'd get, in a corporate, sort of setting, so yeah. So I think that's the one thing I think I just wanted to acknowledge. Then I think another interesting, I think thought, actually your story landed, like on my plate when I visited my mother, I think, over the weekend. I think you were featured, in one of the local newspapers, and yeah, I found that very refreshing. I think just as much as you've been, I think, giving, to your community, I think I think your community, our community, also, have given back, by acknowledging, the work, that you've been doing, yeah. So I think that's, yeah, definitely. I think kudos, yeah, to you, and then I think another, takeaway, that you mentioned. I remember during the COVID, I think, lockdown, I think the number of jobs, especially in the creative space, that we lost, I think it gives you an idea of, the impact, that the creative industry has. Yeah, I think there were, like, I think thousands upon thousands of people who were unable, yeah, to basically, I think, earn a living because we're in lockdown. So, which, goes back to your point, that I think this industry, it's big, and I think, yeah, many young people would be drawn, in the creative, in the creative space. Yeah, and then I think lastly, I mean, I know you're currently in studio, working on your second recording, yeah, but you are so generous, just to give us, this time, just for you to share, your thoughts, yeah. So yeah, I think I'm hopeful, that, I think your generosity, in you giving us, this time, will also be played back to you, so I think, yeah, I think overall, yeah, I think it has been, yeah, quite a refreshing, conversation. I think in my opener, yeah, I did say a lot of great things, come from Orlando. Yeah, so I think, yeah, to that list, of your Mandela and Desmond Tutu, yeah, we'll add Mcebo, as well. Yeah, so the work that you do is very inspirational. Yeah, thank you, yeah, for your thoughts. Any last comments? Any thoughts? Any ideas? Yeah, just to close off the conversation. Maybe your second recording that you're working on. Any last thoughts on your end?
No, I'd like to thank you personally for the platform, and to just say the name Mactebo. It means ideas. That's why I'm always creative. That's why I'm always in the creative space doing what I do. Right now I'm busy with Volume 2. Obviously, I'm featuring different township. So right now I'm busy collecting leads. So if you out there, you're a producer, feel free to DM me or follow us to Do You Production at all platform, digital platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Is Do You Production at Do You Production. So I'm looking for producers to send their beats so that they can be featured on the mixtape that I'm busy recording right now. And then we're looking for rappers as well, you know. So yeah, just follow me at Do You Production for more information. You get there, and then you can always DM me or inbox me. You know, I'll be always active on those platforms. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. No, fantastic. No, thank you for the time. Thank you for your generosity. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, your day. We'll definitely keep in touch. All the best.
All the best. Thank you.
Yeah, so now we'll transition and go to a short break before our next segment.
The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa youth economy switched on. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa youth economy switched on.
Awesome. There was a great conversation with Macebo, and quite like when he unpacked the meaning, of his name, Macebo, a man with ideas. Actually, now that you think about it, like it's not a coincidence, that he's in the creative space, specifically, being a hip hop artist, just sharing his thoughts, his ideas. So it's definitely great, just to have that conversation. So I think we are waiting for our next guest, and we'll do a proper introduction, when he logs in, But me for now, I'll just share high level, some of the key themes, that I picked up, from Macebo's session. Cool. I think the first one, it's in the name, of his production, company, so I think he pronounced it Do You Production, so which is actually quite nice actually. So it almost calls for a sense of this authenticity, for people to look in, find that sense of purpose that drives them, and that gives them that sense of meaning, purpose, yeah, which is actually quite interesting. I think as he shared his story, I think it was almost like an aha moment. I think once he figured out what his purpose was. I think it actually just opened up I think ideas to pursue a lot of the things that he ended up pursuing. And then I think what's also interesting, I remember it's about 2 weeks ago, I think I listened to a podcast. I think they were talking about never buy a business that you are passionate about. It usually ends badly, which I thought was interesting. I thought if you're in a business, in something that you're passionate about, surely you'll definitely do well. But the advice here is, don't do that. So it was quite interesting. I think in this case was Macebo, who's bringing a sort of a different view. He's definitely passionate about hip hop, and the creative, space, and yes, turned this, into a business that's being sustainable. I think it's also interesting how he's also looking to add to what he's already created. So that was quite I think good to see. And then another point that he made was around taking your craft seriously. I think from my observation, I think it was not just a comment he made in passing. So I think in my engagement, whilst we're preparing for today's session, I think the level of professionalism, has been, it's been quite remarkable. So he definitely, takes his craft, seriously. I'm sure, when he, engages with other key stakeholders, be it, funders, or other supplier stakeholders, if this is the level of professionalism, that he brings to the table, I think he'll definitely, go far as he builds his business. And another interesting theme that also came up, it's around mentorship, especially of young people. That it still has it plays a big part, in having, I think the outcomes, or the success, that we'd like to see. So I think what's also interesting here is it sounds like he was mentored, and then by extension, he's also continuing mentoring others. I think it's probably going to be a theme, that comes up, throughout this week, especially when engaging, I think with the young people. Cool. And then what else? It came up. It's this idea of there's usually friction, between, how do you become, authentic, to your craft versus, building, a business, because sometimes it might appear that, they are at loggerheads, but it seems as if they can, coexist. You could be genuine and authentic, to your craft, to your core, and still be able to build a business. I think it's similar to the idea that you shared earlier, around you can make your passion, your business. So that's a great idea. And then maybe I think one last comment, I think, before we go on to a break. I remember it was my professor, I think it might have been in finance. She had been in academia for many years. I think at the time that she was 65. I think in one of the conversations was why isn't she retiring and living her golden years. I think at the time, she was teaching first years, and when apparently, in academia, I think teaching first years, it's quite a tough job to do. I think many people avoid that. But one thing that she mentioned is, the secret to staying young, is working with young people. So that's why she loves teaching first years. It keeps her young. So I think likewise, I think interacting and working with young people, I think, in my day-to-day job in my many other initiatives, it has been great. I think it keeps you, on your toes. You learn so much. I think young people are hungry. They want to make an impact. And especially in Africa, they talk about the demographic dividend. If you look at the population structure, of the entire continent, and there are more young people, compared to, I think, some of the wealthier countries, including South Korea, where you've got, an aging population, and which comes with its own challenges. I think that the prospects, of Africa and many African countries, are looking great. And young people, are going to be, in the engine room, for progress in the next few decades. So I think this session, it's definitely spoke to that. So I think let's do a break, and then let's see if we can get our guest. If we can get him in time, I'll just do just a profile, of what I've learned, about him, in our preparation for the session, and then I think we'll then move on to our next guest. But let's just take a quick 1-2 minute break, and then let's try to reach out to him, and then if you can't get him, I'll just do a quick profile, and some of the learnings from him. Let's go for a break, quick break.
The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa youth economy switched on. You're listening to Career Indaba Radio, the voice of Africa's labor market. Real voices, real change, real opportunity. Hello Africa, want to stay plugged into the world of work? Follow us at Career Indaba on LinkedIn, Instagram and X, and dive deeper at careerindaba.org. The conversation becomes a movement. The idea becomes an economy. This is not another event. It's an activation of Africa's potential. The Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026, where 5,000 delegates, 100 exhibitors, and 20 bootcamp zones collide to create the future of work. From youth innovators to corporate pioneers, from township traders to global brands, every voice counts. 2 days, one goal. Aligning Africa's skills with its opportunities. Career Indaba Expo and Bootcamp 2026. 15th to 16th May, Sandton Convention Center, where skills meet, where Africa works. The mic is live, the youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage. We plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa Youth Economy switched on.
No, awesome. So I've tried to reach out to Redwan, and then just reshared the link to the conversation. Hopefully, he will join. But I think so long, I'll just speak to his profile. I met Ridwan. I think a few months ago. I think it was they call it an inclusive, venture capital session, and so he works as an AI innovator. Is based in Lagos, and his passion is about how technology can democratize opportunity, enhance employability, and reshape Africa's digital workforce. So I think what I particularly liked about his profile and the insights he could share to his conversations, is the impact on AI on employability. So I think that's one of the things I wanted to explore, with him. And maybe just to reflect, in my current role, one of the things that we work on an annual basis, it's a graduate recruitment program. So this is where we go to universities and we look for potential candidates to join the business as graduates, and I think managing this pipeline of this recruitment process, it can be quite intense. In certain instances, you'll get thousands of applications. So I think initially, what tended to happen is you'll have a human being, screening CVs and transcripts and so forth, so I think one thing I think that became clear is, I think this is where potentially I think a bias can come in, if a human being basically just decides who gets progressed and who gets declined. So this is where these I think AI platforms come in. So and the way it would work, you'd give it a set of rules, and it will use these rules to do the screening. So I think what's become interesting in the recruitment process is when you're writing your CVs, you want to write it in such a way that the AI can synthesize and make sure that it shortlists you for that particular role, so which is a new thing, I think it's a good thing, you know. Yeah, I think it's a good thing, you know, because I think previously, you know, I think having, you know, a person, I think, do the screening, you know, I think it was, I don't know who came up with that statistic, you know, that I think on average, you know, a CV, you know, it gets looked at, if it was a person, I think for like 6 or 7 seconds. You know, I think that's where within that 6 or 7 seconds they make a decision whether it's in the in or out pile. You know, and I think it's also it can be quite, you know, I think subjective. Yeah, so that's where then these AI, yeah, I think technologies could be yeah, quite yeah, handy. Yeah, so I'm gonna see, you know, our guest has arrived. Um, yeah, good day, Ridwan. You know, I was just giving a quick intro on your bio, just mentioning that you are a product manager, you know, and one of your passions it's about technology and how you can democratize opportunity to enhance employability and reshape Africa's digital workforce. Yeah, maybe just to hear, you know, in your own words, maybe you could just tell us, I think, more about yourself, you know, and how you got into the space of being a product manager. And welcome.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mulela. Hope
Yeah,
I got it right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for having me on this podcast today. My name is Ridwan Muslim. I'm the founder and CEO of Recruiter AI. Actually, I started my journey into product management and AI innovation because I love seeing ideas come to reality, right? So, I know idea is cheap. Everybody has idea one way or the other. Everywhere you go in the world, you always meet people with ideas and all of those things. But then what happens after the idea, right? So the poor, the wretched, the beggars, they all have an idea, right? So what makes them different from those who are successful, those who implement, is ability to bring those ideas together, work together with team, work together with resources, work together with um whatever that is available at a particular moment to achieve that particular ideation goal. So I felt this is me because I like working with people, I like leadership, and then I took that as a challenge. Then I started my journey as an associate product manager. From there, I moved on. Then the AI innovation part of it is, you know, AI is changing everything, right? Like in my language, they'll say there is nothing new under the sky. But even it might seem like there's nothing new under the sky, one thing is obvious. Something that is already existing under the sky can be done in the better way, right? It can be done in a modern way, can be done much more cheaper, can be done much more efficiently, and then can, you know, can be done quicker also. So this bringing these two together makes me um a relevant product manager, AI product manager in today's world. Yeah, thank you.
No, awesome. No, I quite like, yeah, your take, you know, on, I mean, yes, there might not be anything new under the sun, but there's a better way, you know, of doing things. I think one of the applications, you know, that I think you've worked on from an AI point of view, it's around the recruitment process. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, what advice would you have, you know, especially for young people, in making sure that I think the I mean the AI, um, should we call it the AI HR person, it does not screen them out of these employment opportunities? How could they, facelift, their CVs, to make sure they don't get screened out by the process?
Okay. Yeah. First of all, is in job applications or looking for job, there's something called ATS. That's applicant tracking system. Some people call it application tracking system, and all of sorts. So basically, what this does is it compares the skills, right? The keywords in the job description to the skills and the keywords in the job seeker's profile or CV, right? So back then, this is done just keyword to keyword, right? So it means if your CV does not have Python developer, does not have 5 years of experience, does not have all of those things, as much as it is on the job description, a job seeker can be fetched out. You can lose that. You can be classified as an unqualified candidate. But now, in the world of AI in hiring, AI is not just going to look at the keywords only, right? So it's going to read the entire sentence on your CV and make a meaning out of it and see if it actually resonates with with the recruiter's job description, right? So let me give you a typical example. Back then, before AI, if I'm using an ATS applicant tracking system, so let's say the recruiter, the company puts out a job description there on the software, then they say they want a candidate who have this who have Python. Let me still use Python again. Who use, let's say, a front end developer who knows how to use CSS, HTML, JavaScript and all of those things. Then you should have built a website that is live and all of those things. So those are like keywords. So back then, the ATS is going to look at a job seeker CV and find if there is CSS, JavaScript, um, HTML, and probably if you've launched a product. But now, what happens if the job seeker does not include those words keyword by keyword? Automatically, the ATS is going to find that candidate as a mismatched. But now with AI, now with a CV that says I have managed 10 people, and I've managed 10 people, 10 junior developers to launch a beautiful website, right? So automatically today, the AI is going to analyze, like, okay, if someone can manage 10 junior developers and the person has launched a website, automatically that person is good with front end, which is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, even without the person including those keywords in their CV. So you can see that is intelligence, right? So instead of keyword to keyword, now AI now make it a kind of semantical meaning. It makes job seeker to be relevant based on just based on not just this keyword, but on using the entire interpretation. I think this is the benefit for job seekers today, that it was not there back then before. I don't really know if that answers your question, or maybe I still need to add more
Yeah,
emphasis to that.
yeah, it does. It's quite interesting how things have moved. I know back in the days, especially in designing websites, search engine optimization, where it was about
Yeah,
keywords. But it looks like this process, it goes for meaning. It could actually almost like a recommendation that actually this could be a good fit for this role. That's quite amazing.
yeah.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. Advice. I guess you've touched on it. What advice
Okay,
would you
yeah. In
give
terms
job
of
seekers?
advice, right?
Yeah.
In terms of advice that I'll give to job seekers is, um any job you want to apply to today, don't just use a generic CV to apply. You have quite a number of AI tools there that can help you optimize your CV to make sure it aligns with the job you want to apply to, and that increases your chances of being shortlisted. And in much now, the advice you have is it's much more easier now. So if you just go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Cloud and you upload your job description from the company, then you tell the AI to study this job description. It's going to study it and reply you with yes. So okay, fine, I've studied it, and yes, I've studied it. Then you also upload your CV and tells the AI to update your CV to include the relevant keywords and the skills that are mentioned on the job description without lying. So you have to put it there that without lying, right? Because if you don't put it there that without lying, it's just going to add more skills, it's going to add more experiences, more certifications that you don't have. As much as those certifications are mentioned on the job description, it's going to fetch out what the company wants from the job description and include it in your updated CV, right? So you tell it not to lie, or you're just telling it is my similar work experience, but now make it keyword relevant, right? Make it semantic relevant in terms of the structure with the job description, and it's going to fetch you out something. All you just need is copy that, update your CV, right? Then you can now apply. Then another advice I also give to job seeker is don't just stop with applying to jobs only, right? If you apply to job, go to the company's website, try to look for any relevant email you can find on the company's website, draft a kind of body plus the CV you've already optimized, your updated CV for that particular job description. So let the body of your mail you let a copy goes to their email plus your CV attached, your updated CV attached, right? So this way you have an higher chance of being reviewed, right? Because what if from your application your CV does not really pass through, but just by sending an email to any relevant company's email, they can actually look at your CV and they have an higher chance. One last thing I will also say is um also look for the recruiters that post the job and try to chat them up on LinkedIn. Right, it's also very very helpful. But at that stage, make sure you optimize your CV, you optimize your LinkedIn profile. Then I think if you do those three things, it's going to be good. Don't just apply by tailoring your resume to job description. Send that same resume to company's email. Then also try to message the recruiter who is hiring for the role, or any company employee on LinkedIn who can directly refer you for the job. I think if you can do these quality applications, you have higher chance. Yeah, I think about 90%. You have a 90% higher chance compared to others who are just how would I put it, just spreading one single CV for 30 applications. Yeah.
Wow, that's sure. That's yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. So I think customizing your CVs to the role. I remember. I mean, back in the days, like 20 years ago.
Okay.
When you're in the job market, I think you can get to a point, where like your CV, it's I mean, like it's diluted because it's everywhere in the market, yeah. So I think in this case you could have a tailored CV for each particular role. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very I think interesting. But I also remember, especially during it's a long time ago, the financial crisis, where I think young people were hardest hit, or people who are wanting to get into the job market. I think in those years, I think it was very common, to find young people applying to over 1,000 jobs. So I think this will definitely help, in yeah, easily sort of, I think, applying to as many opportunities. I think it will also save time. So yeah, that's quite great what this can do. Cool. Yeah, maybe a broad, question. You know, um, I mean, what sort of skills, will matter the most, you know, like in an AI driven job market, you know, like in your view, yeah, what do you think? What skill do you think will matter the most?
Okay, yeah, the skill that will be relevant in the AI-driven job market is number one, ability to use new AI softwares, right? So, for instance, if you've been running marketing before and now AI is here, so you should learn new softwares that are built to automate marketing, right? Uh, so you need to be as relevant and as updated as possible with so many marketing tools out there, so that so many or AI tools out there for different use cases, and that way you can actually outshine and you'll not be left behind. There's a popular saying that AI is not going to take our job, but AI is going to take the jobs of those who refuse to use AI, right? So that's one. Then second skills that I think it's very, very important are soft skills, right? So these soft skills now, they will help individuals to be adaptable to different environments, different jobs, different scenarios. Because with the actual job you're supposed to do, AI has made it automated, then are you still relevant? That's the question. But then AI cannot really be as perfect in terms of soft skills, in terms of communications, in terms of adaptability, in terms of relationship, and all of those soft skills that makes human different from AI, right? So these, I think these two skills are much, and then ability to use AI tools, then ability to adapt with soft skills. I think those two things are going to make anyone to still be relevant, regardless of whether AGI is coming or super intelligence is coming, or whatever is coming. So you just need to keep updating yourself, then um, be human, so that AI cannot really take that part from you.
No, awesome, awesome, awesome. That sounds great. You know, yeah, there are definitely some great nuggets, you know, that you've shared. Um, Maybe one last question as we yeah, about to wrap up. I think, looking ahead, you know, what opportunities excites you the most in Africa's digital and AI landscape?
Yeah, in terms of excitement, I think the biggest excitement for me now is this is a good time for anyone in Africa or anyone in the world to build a company, right? So, back then, some people could say all the ideas have already been built, all the solutions have been built. There are no new companies, ideas, and all of those things. But now, you know, this is a time for anyone who actually wants to become a CEO to start building towards that path. Because, like I said initially, it can look like there is nothing new under the sky, but there are new approaches to do those old things, right? So now the new approaches can be enhanced using AI, right? And that's where new young people, that's where the African market can tap into. And that's one. Secondly, is now we can now do more with lesser time and lesser budgets, right? So we can do more with lesser time and lesser budget. For instance, before, imagine you are into, let's say, the customer service niche, for instance, but now AI is automating customer service for companies. So what it means is company can do more and they can spend less. So this can still be like a disadvantage, like, okay, it's taking people's job. People are the automation part is removing people out of their job. But the good part of it is, as much as it's removing people out of their job, the automation part is also making new companies to come up, right?
Mm.
So let's say before it, and the popularity of AI, let's say for instance there are 10 companies in the world, Now, these 10 companies is what everybody on earth is trying to get a share of their own salary and all of those things from, right? But now with AI, there are now more extra 15 companies. So what it means is if people are leaving those 10 companies because of automation, they also have the opportunity to go and join the new 15 companies that are just springing up, right? And apart of them joining the new 15 companies, they themselves can also start up a company themselves. So that
Mm,
means as much as AI can look like it's reducing people's job, the benefit is also it's creating more jobs also, right? So within 2022, where ChatGPT was launched, and now I can bet you that more companies have been bettered, more startups have been bettered than in the last 10
mm,
years. Can you see? So within
mm,
3 years, more companies have been bettered than the last 10 years. So what that means is, as much as AI looks like is reducing our job, it's also creating more opportunities, right? Because
mm,
there are now expansions, there are more solutions to be solved, and definitely there will still be need for more people to take up these new ideas.
mm. No, fantastic. No, those are great insights. And I think these are actionable insights. No, yeah, thank you for being so generous with your time. Just to share some of your thoughts, and showcasing some of the work you've done in the space. I think the future definitely is looking very interesting. And there's some actionable things that I think a lot of folk will be able to work on. Let's keep in touch. Once again, thank you for all your time and for sharing generously. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Um, thank you so much. I appreciate the
Awesome.
session. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Great. So we'll just go for a quick break and then move on to our next segment with our
All right.
next guest.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
The mic is live, the youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa Youth Economy switched on. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover. A 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. The mic is live, the youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa Youth Economy switched on.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm excited to welcome our next guest, Dennis. I'll say more about him. I think just now, maybe just reading his bio for now. So, Dennis is an experienced leader in education training and youth development, playing a key role in home-based and work-based initiatives under African Havens and Every Nation Rosebank Church. These programs support young people, especially those from orphaned and vulnerable backgrounds. They help them to find belonging, purpose, and a pathway in education and work. Welcome, Dennis. Great to have you on the show.
Perfect. Sele, it's so good to see you again. I haven't seen you for a while, so it's so good to see you again in person, as it were. But it's a blessing to be here talking to you this afternoon. I really appreciate it. What I can see Korea Indaba is doing looks incredible, and so super excited.
Awesome. No, thank you for making the time. Maybe we could just start, maybe at a high level. Maybe you could just tell us your story in terms of what drew you in being involved with home base and work base.
Perfect. So I'm going to tell you the short version. There's a longer version, but the short version is my wife and I were working for a non-profit in Eswatini in Swaziland. And as we were working with orphans and vulnerable young people, about 400 of them. And I was at that stage, the principal of the high school. And as I was working with the high school, I got to know young people, most of whom were orphaned or vulnerable in some way. And as I got to know the young people, really, I realized often we see young people as just a statistic, a number. We kind of see them as a person whereas what I started to see is I started to see the individual, their dreams, their desires, their battles, their passions, their struggles along the way. And so really what we wanted to do is we sort of recognize that these young people are struggling, especially as it comes to making decisions for when they finish school. Because I was the principal, so we were in high school, but as they got to the end of high school, there was a struggle for them. And so we recognize that the struggle is very real, and we recognize that a lot of them are stuck or they're directionless. And so that was the one side. On the other side, when I started, I scraped into university. So I got into university. I went to Wits University, yay Wits. And as I started at university, I found myself in a situation where I was kind of an average student. But then I had a professor, I was studying archaeology at that stage, and I had a professor who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And what he did is over the next 3 years, he drew that out so much so that I was getting top of my class. So from getting C's and D's at school, I was now top of the class at varsity. Why? Because someone had recognized a gifting, potential, passion, and they had done something and taken a step to draw it out. And so the mixture of those two, what we learned in Eswatini, what my professor did with me, we said, we're going to start something to help young people find their way. We're going to start something so that other people can come alongside young people, just like my professor came alongside me, and partner with them to help them find their way. And we called it home base because a lot of orphan and vulnerable young people, when they're in institutions, CYCCs or some other orphanages, they don't have it. When they finish there, they're adrift. And so we created home base as a place so that those young people don't have to be adrift. And so home base is firstly a residential program where we have young people staying, where we look after their daily needs, but they're also studying, and we're working with them to shape them so that they can become independent adults. And so that's been our journey. Then what we did in addition to that is we added on the career guidance side, because to get the right students into home base, we started exploring on the career guidance side because we recognized that was a gap, that people are struggling to step into the right career because they're either not getting any guidance or they're getting the wrong guidance, or they're getting the guidance from what they see out there and it's not relevant to them, their world, their marks, their personality, or any of those things. So that's kind of in a nutshell how we ended up where we are.
No, awesome. No, thanks for the context. I think some had before, so no, that's great for bringing us in. And then I think you sort of intro this. How do the programs help young people transition from care to independence? What's your thoughts on that?
So I think what we do is we see a young person as a whole person. So they're a whole person with their own hopes, with their own dreams, but also with their own battles. And so a lot of the young people we work with, in fact, many young people in the world around us, they've come through battles. So particularly young people who are in care, they have degrees of trauma, they've got learning gaps, they've got battles that for me, I may have not faced those battles. And so what we want to do is create an environment where it's a safe environment. It's an environment where people can come alongside them, where we can create a community around them. So I'll give you an example. We had a young person, a young guy, and we'll call him T. So T was he was at school in matric. He was being bullied in matric, and he was about to be kicked out of the children's home for misbehavior. And so the social worker approached us and said, would you help T? And we interviewed him. We saw potential. There was like a certain spark in him, a certain naughty spark in him as well. And so we said, come along and we'll take a risk and we'll get you into home base. And that's what we did. And so he journeyed with us. We helped him get into studies. He studied in business administration. And so we helped, part of our journey is to help source the funding. And so we knocked on the doors for funding and journeyed with T over a period. So our journey with these young people is a committed journey over years. So it's not just kind of come in, we spit you out in a month. It's a year journey. So it's now been 7 years. And even though he's no longer in the program, I'm still in touch with T. We're still journeying together because it's a long term. And so what we did is we then, once we had him, he's studying, then we mentor him. Then we make sure that we're putting the right things in place around his life. We're helping him through some of the trauma, and that might be seeing a psychologist, it might be counseling. And then what we're doing is we're also putting a family around him. Because if you're alone, the battle is so much more difficult. Whereas if we can put a family around him, and so that might be a spiritual family in the sense of a church, but in this case, it was actually a physical, an actual family that took his heart and actually started to include him in the family, so he could do things with the family. They're the ones who, in the end, funded some of his studies, and in the end, he grew so much that after he'd finished studying, he was. We managed to find him an independent space for living. And so he's continued to grow career, guys. He's now an entrepreneur doing his own thing. And he's learned some tough lessons along the way in this process. I remember once he lost 7,500 Rand in a business deal because essentially he was scammed because he trusted too much, you know? And so we journey with them through that struggle because that's what these young people need. They need someone who's willing to journey through, not to just write them off. I hope I've kind of given enough of a picture.
Yeah, thank you for those stories and examples. And that definitely puts it in context. Yeah, and it's also not transactional. It's actually a lifelong journey. And I think you can see I think the impact that is made on the young people's lives. I think you also spoke to mentorship. I think what's probably interesting, it's probably two ways. I think just as they have been mentored, they probably paid in kind. They're also maybe more open to mentoring others.
Very true. So interesting example, T, who I mentioned, he came from a particular children's home in Johannesburg. And through this process, he developed such a heart that he started to give back into his children's home. So he would host a soccer afternoon. He would raise money from his friends and things to come and bring the young people in that children's home something as a spoil. And so he had really developed that heart to give back. And I think that's what we want, is we want to see the young people shaped, made more whole on the journey, because part of it is making more whole, be more resilient to cope with the battles on the way, because there will be battles, but then to continue and help others. And so T, for example, that's not everyone has done this, but T is a good example of someone who he's continued just to give back and to love on people and to include people. So yeah.
Wow, that's a impactful story. Definitely. Especially seeing the multiply effect also at play. That's great. I think you've also maybe touched on this theme, just around the biggest barriers youth face today. I I know when there is, I think comments, have been made around, I think, I think adults like fear, I think young people, especially teenagers, yeah. And then I think, there are other things that have been said, around work ethic and so forth. How can, I think, what are the barriers that youth face, and how can we break, this psychological barriers, especially for people who are wanting to work with young people?
Thank you. I think great question. I think the couple of them are, there's a lot of uncertainty in them about the future. So I heard your previous guest was talking about AI, for example. And so that creates uncertainty. It creates a lot of uncertainty to say, what kind of work will I get? Will there be work? Because there's a lot of conversations happening in the world around us. So there's a lot of uncertainty. But also for young people today, there's so many options. The world is their oyster, but there's so much of the world that it can become very overwhelming. It's sort of, they're spoiled for choice, but not all the options are open to them. And I think part of the battle is, there's also one of the barriers is there's a certain degree of hopelessness that our young people sometimes face because because they see people who are successful in every way and they don't see their space. How can they be successful? So I always use the picture of, if you have to walk into a room and the room has 10 doors. Now, the person who's getting best marks in matric, who's top of their class, they might be able to walk into any one of those 10 doors and find the suitable career. Whereas if you are failing in matric, sometimes the perspective is, there's no doors, I'm stuck. Whereas actually there's less doors, but there's maybe 3, maybe 4 doors that I can work with. But I actually need someone alongside me, a mentor, a friend, like I mentioned, a family, a spiritual community that can come alongside you, get to know you well enough to hear heart, hear passion, and then point you in the direction of one of those doors. But sometimes the young people are standing and it's just too much information. They don't even know where to start. And so that's part of why we started Career Guidance, to help narrow it down so people have at least a sense of direction where to go, because there's such a range of careers. When I was growing up, there were relatively few careers, whereas now there's a huge expanse. And so it becomes it becomes numbing because of the quantity. I think the other thing is, young people often feel that they're on their own, and particularly orphan and vulnerable young people, they're on their own and they're fighting on their own. And some of them are, well, most of them are incredibly strong. I've learned so much as I've worked with these young people, because there's such a resilience in them, such a work ethic, which I learn from every day. But there's the flip side is they're fighting on their own, and that can be hard. And so that's why we try and partner them with people. That's why we partner with them, so that they're not on their own. Yeah.
No, awesome. No, thanks for sharing those insights. No, yeah, definitely, I think makes sense. I know you're working on a career activation. Maybe you can say more about that. I think I get it. I think in the context of these many choices, but yeah, maybe say more around the career activation and what you hope to achieve.
So we do this quite regularly as Homebase, where we have career workshops, and we primarily invite young people from the children's homes across the city. And in those workshops, we use volunteers who are part of our team. This time around, we're very blessed to have an organizational psychologist on our team who's going to be helping them in this career choice option. So essentially what we do in this workshop, so this workshop is on the 29th of November. So it's this year, 29th of November at Every Nation Rosebank, hosted there. And we are, in this workshop, we're going to take them on a career journey, do some assessments, some basic entry-level assessments, so that we can take the broad range of choices and start to narrow it down. Once we've narrowed it down a little bit, then we're going to expose them to people in that narrow range. So say, for example, the narrowing down process means that it seems like my career interest is in careers where I use my hands, where I'm practically doing something. So it might be a chef, it might be an electrician, a plumber. Then I'm going to interact with some of our volunteers who are a chef, a plumber, someone using their hands. Or it might be more of a conventional career, which is like a bookkeeper or an accountant. And so if that's where it narrows down to, then we want to connect them with a bookkeeper and accountant so that they have the reality of what that work looks like. They have someone they can bounce ideas off, someone they can listen to. And so that's what it is. It's about starting broad, helping them narrow it down, and then narrowing it down even further is what we do following the workshop, where we say, okay, now you are in this space, maybe you're in grade 11, you're needing to make choices, or maybe you're in grade 9 needing to make career choices, subject choices, and we help them narrow it down to make the right subject choices or to make the right choices in terms of what doors are they knocking on for further studies. So I'll give you a quick example. We had a young person who I actually spoke to at one of these career workshops, and she really wanted to become a fighter pilot. So that's great. You can become So then as we started to unpack, I looked at her maths mark and her physics marks, and they weren't very good. She was failing maths. She wasn't doing very well with physics. And I'm like, to become a fighter pilot, you need higher marks for those. And also the career field for fighter pilots in South Africa is somewhat limited. And so as I started to unpack with her, and that's what we need this one-on-one conversation, we realized that it's like, why do you want to become a fighter pilot? Do you like, flying planes? No, what it was is she wants to travel. So I'm like, oh, okay. Fighter pilot isn't your thing then, because you travel, but you don't, so what about let's explore something else where you don't need the maths and the science, but you can still travel. And so then that opened up a whole world to her. And then at least she can make the best right steps along the way. And so that's kind of our journey with these young people, is to help them bring reality, because we can't also say you're all going to become a doctor. We have to bring some reality based on your marks, based on your personality, and then help them along the way and actually come alongside them, because then there's more possibilities, because along that journey, they're going to struggle. They need people alongside them who's going to help them over that hurdle, whatever it might be.
No, that's great. I quite like that it's personal, and I think it also comes in at a stage in their life where they're trying to unpack, a lot of these, things that could even be overwhelming. So that's great. I love that. And then this is more of a broad question. What advice would you share with young people, trying to find, direction in these uncertain times?
Thank you, Stelo. I think I thought about this a little bit, and I think probably 3 bits of advice. I think the one thing is what I always encourage our young people that we journey with is to build good relationships and to become almost an artist at relationships. The reason I say that is studies have shown that children leaving care, that's children leaving children's homes and so on, they succeed in independent living in the rest of their life. And studies have shown that, and the studies by a professor at the University of Johannesburg have shown that if they are good at building their relationships, then they can succeed, and then they're going to become more successful. And so we focus on a lot on to say how let's help those relationships. Say, for example, you got a matric young person who's in school. When they leave school on the last day, they swear at the teacher because they've been waiting to swear at the teacher who they don't like. That's not a good thing. Partly you shouldn't swear at the teacher, but partly because what it is those are relationships which could benefit you in later life. And so part of what we need to help our young people with is to have longer term sustainable relationships that I keep for the long term, because every position I've filled, every job I've got, primarily, except for one, it's been based on relationships. And so if we can help young people to build and nurture good, healthy relationships, that's a good thing. We live in a bit of a culture of cancel culture where we end relationships, we go to the next thing. and that's not good. And so longer term relationships would be the first one. The second one would be character, because in the end, I can be really successful and get the right profession, the right degree, but if my character is failing me, if my character, if I'm lying, I'm stealing, I'm rude, I'm arrogant, I'm proud, any of those things, then my career success is going to be very limited. And so we put a lot of focus on helping the young people in their character. And so obviously as a Christian organization, our focus is godly character, but we focus, whether it's a Christian or not, we focus on character. What are the values you hold to? What are the values you live by? The third one is hard work. Okay, young people don't like hard work often, and I'm generalizing, but in the end, you have to put in the miles. I read something recently where someone was saying it was a bit older. He was in his early 60s, and he was still running, I think, like 100 kilometers a month or something. And people said, how do you manage to do that? And it's because he did the daily hard work over all those years that he's still able to go for those long runs. And so, because that's where you build the habits, that's where you develop the character, that's where you build the relationships. And so it's the hard work, the day by day, putting in the hours, putting in the time, and then you're going to succeed if you're doing those things. I hope those are a few helpful tools.
No, awesome. No, definitely. Yeah, I love all three. Yeah, it's been quite refreshing. I think segment. When I think as we begin to close, I don't know if there are any other maybe parting comments. I think you'd like to make. I think before we wrap up.
I think a parting comment would be to say thank you for Career Indaba for hosting this. I think these are important conversations. And I think we need more conversations like this. We need to help young people and partner with young people. I think one of the key elements is entrepreneurship. I see that's a key element of what you guys are building. And I think entrepreneurship is something that we need to foster among our young people more. But we need people who are going to come alongside them and help them. And so I think building on the entrepreneurship side would be something I'd like to see more of. Even a lot of our young people need ideas, need some sort of spark to help them see something which maybe they're not seeing, be put into an environment where something's sparked. And I think, from a home-based perspective, if people did want to partner with us, did want to be part of what we're doing in the career guidance on the 29th of November, we have a website called home-base.org, and all my contact details are there. All our details are there. We'd love you to connect with us, or if you want to partner with us in any way. But, I'm excited about the youth of our nation. I believe that God's taking us into a space where we're going to see our youth are actually going to surprise us. I was at a school this morning, and as we were interacting with the young people, there's so much vibrancy. There's so much enthusiasm. Now they have exams, so there's a little bit nervous vibrancy, but there's so much enthusiasm. There's so much, and I have so much hope for South Africa because I see there's so much in our young people, and we just need to, as like an older person like myself, come alongside them, love on them, create the right context for them to succeed, and that gives me a whole lot of hope for the nation as well. But thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, you've left us inspired. Thank you. For those closing remarks. Thank you for also taking the time to come chat to us. We'll definitely be in touch, as we walk this journey together. Awesome.
Thank
really
you
appreciate
so much,
it.
Taylor. I appreciate you and appreciate this opportunity. See,
Thank you.
have a good one.
Cheers. As we go on a quick break, and then we move on to our next guest. Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, Taylor.
The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa Youth Economy switched on. Hello, Africa. Want to stay plugged into the world of work? Follow us at Career Indaba on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, and dive deeper at careerindaba.org. If unemployment is a crisis, now what? We are moving from talk to action. Career Indaba Impact Week, the Boardroom Takeover, a 5-day live broadcast activation from 27 to 31 October 2025, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Hosted by Career Indaba board members leading Africa's biggest conversations on employment, skills, youth empowerment, and inclusive growth. Bring a pledge, a placement, or a partnership. Catch us live on careerindaba.org and all our social media platforms. Career Indaba, the voice of Africa's labor market. The mic is live, the youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity. From side gigs to startups, from code to courage, we plug in the next generation to jobs, skills, and power. Youth Plug, Africa Youth Economy switched on.
Awesome. I'm actually excited to introduce our next guest. I think we go way back, probably 20 years ago. We used to work in the same business that many years ago. Maybe let me just do a quick intro, and then let's let Bulani, Dr. P, in the conversation. Dr. Bulani is a trailblazing leader, bringing academia, business, and technology. Currently serving as a COO at FNB, a part-time lecturer at both Wits and University of Johannesburg. So in this conversation, we'll explore her leadership journey, her advocacy for youth, women, and how purpose-driven leadership can shape Africa's future. Welcome, Bulani, Dr. P. Cool. Maybe you could just as an intro, tell us, I think, more about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Good afternoon, and what a beautiful intro. I think I don't have to say much. You've said everything that I needed to say, but I think a big congratulations to you and your team. This is a very useful platform, and the one that Africa needs. I'm not saying South Africa, I said Africa needs, right? So I'm very humbled to be part of this big movement. I'm very passionate about youth, women. Let me just say I'm passionate about people. But I think, as you said, you and I come a long way. I remember when we met in Amsterdam, eh? So that was the last time. You forgot. That was the last time I saw you, and I think we were due for a catch up. But yes, started off in a multinational company as a business IT analyst. I moved on to join the bank full time from consulting. And yes, I'm still with the bank 20 years later, 20 plus years later. And more recently, I joined the academic space because I have seen the power in education. I think I'm where I am because of education. So I think for me, it's also giving back to communities, giving back to the students that will love to probably thrive in life, or those ones that are thriving and want to stay winning. So yes, pretty much academia, banking, and many other things that I do in my personal time or personal space. Thank you.
No,
A
awesome,
long
awesome.
introduction. You know me, I can talk forever. I always say, as a teacher, I get paid for speaking, so I do speak a lot. You must stop me. And also,
Yeah.
I'm obviously a speaker, and I do speak. So please feel free to stop me when I'm going on and on and on.
No, that's a great, introduction. I think it gives people, context and brings them in. So yeah, definitely, that's great. I think one thing we want to maybe touch on, yeah, it's just to, I mean, what do you think, around what do young people, I think, need the most, just to thrive, in the world of work? I mean, how would you, um, what would your thoughts be around that?
Yeah, I think the basic thing is that as a human being, all of us want to win, right?
Mm.
And the challenges that we're having currently, especially with young people, is the environment has evolved. I think you will agree with me that back then we were socialized that as a young person, you go to the university, you get a degree, and you'll be employed. It was a lot simpler than today. So today, the world is different. The world of work is highly competitive, and the unemployment rate, as you all know, keeps on rising because the economy is where it is. So there isn't a lot of job opportunities that are being created by formal and informal sectors. And the shift also is beautiful in the sense that I see a lot of young people now taking spaces and becoming entrepreneurs. So I'll say that somehow we can see the shift that a lot of young people that I interact with, they are not just queuing to find employment, but they are also vested in finding a gap that exists either within their communities, and see or come up with ways as to close those gaps. And with that said, we know that funding, it remains a challenge, right? I mean, banking, I can tell you for free that before we can look into funding you, we want like a healthy balance sheet. So there's still struggles that we need to probably address, but there's many other opportunities that young people can actually tap into, because when you look at especially our communities, right, there's quite a lot that needs to happen. I don't want to talk ill about the government, but we can't always wait for the government to come up with solutions. There's really solutions that as young people, or I'm no more young, I guess, young people can actually come up with. So it's actually exciting because I think young people think differently, and we do need that. I mean, people that think differently, right? I get very energized when I work with people who don't think like me, because it will be like, oh, when I was your age, our
Yeah.
thinking was not the same as that. So I do think that there's quite a lot that there's young people have got a lot of answers. How they go about it is a different story, but the what is there. So I'm not so worried. I think the future is bright. We can see it, but there's a lot more that we need to make sure that we nudge, we support, we guide for them to realize their dreams.
No, good point. And I think it's one of the themes that has come out in today's conversations, around I think mentoring, and I think walking, I think the journeys with the young people. I mean, maybe from your experience, I mean, how have you found mentorship, to drive any sort of meaningful change, for youth? Is it something they welcome? Is it working? How has it worked? Mentorship for young people.
Yeah, so I think I'll take even a step back and say mentorship is so important for all of us, right? More for young people probably have not been exposed, but I see. Let's start with education, even if it's metric. I'm not going to discriminate this time. It does give you that knowledge, right? And you probably haven't been out there yourself to test that knowledge. And some people have been out there, right? So I see mentors as those people who can actually say that, okay, you are driving on this highway, but this highway has a lot of potholes, or there are probably livestock. When you go to those rural areas and township, there are livestock that might be on your way. So you already make someone aware of what could happen along the journey, right? Before, so they anticipate what could go wrong. So I think that's where the role of mentorship is going, because oftentimes I see that youngsters, they think, and again, I'm sorry, Selebelo, I know you're not probably a social media person, but young people will see social media, Instagram and all, and see some of us winning, right? And they think that we grew up winning. We have always been where we at. And the truth is that probably we started off the same way, or we're worse off than them. But we don't expose that reality in our social media spaces. And then when you have a mentor that can actually even make you aware of certain truths that you're not aware of certain perspectives that you never thought about. So it does actually add value in your life. So I do think that mentorship has got a very key role to play. And I'd like to say, don't limit yourself in terms of mentorship. I mean, a lot of people can mentor you. So the mistake that people make is everybody, even in my world, everybody comes to me, please be our mentor. you know, please. And I always say yes. I never say no to a mentorship request. In fact, I just had a conversation with my colleague now to say, I don't even like the formalized mentorship programs because they are more prescriptive to say, meet with this person once a month for 1 hour, take notes, keep what. I don't have time for that. And then if I'm going to be in a program like that, it means I can't take as many people as possible, because a lot of my mentorship conversations, they happen on WhatsApp. I could be with you now, but somebody send me something on WhatsApp that they need my guidance or my help with. I can quickly, assist with that and then move on. So mentorship remains very critical. I mean, I remember myself when I started, there were people, even, like those older sisters that you call them sisters when you join
Yeah.
corporate, in there before you, they'll even come to me and say, please, how you dress is important. So stop wearing crop tops to work. And meantime, you are young, you feel like, no, I've got this banging body, I want to show it off and whatever. So it's those small things that we think are small, but they assist you in the long run, because, for example, on the dress code, when you're presentable, people are comfortable to come and chat with you. But imagine if you're a young girl, you wear a crop top and there's a senior person, probably male, they even become a bit nervous to approach you and have a real conversation with you. So it's those kind of unwritten rules that you probably not get from a formal learning or classroom type of base. So I value mentorship. I still have mentors myself at my older age, and I will continue having mentors, including my mom. You know what I mean? I'm married, I've got kids, and my mom will be like, as a mother, you deal with a teenager like this. And so it's exactly that, right? To say mentorship is normally from people who have been down the road before, or they have a certain knowledge and experience better than what you currently having, and they can actually guide you and steer you in the right direction. So I do value mentorship, and I think young people should seek out for mentors. It will assist them. And I think what I'm also seeing is when people are sort of feeling helpless, they don't look out and see who can assist me when I'm in this situation. They are quick to sort of give up and say, you know what, because I live in this community, as an example, there's no one to assist. And I can tell you for free that every community, there's wisdom. We just need to go find it. So it's very important that young people have mentors.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, yeah. No, I loved it. I think we all need, I think mentors. And then somebody said, put out this metaphor, just building the case of why we need metaphors. I mean, yes, I think the one is, you want somebody who's seen the movie before, so they'll be in a good place to, advise, like in this case, your mother has raised teenagers, yeah, and wisdom will definitely, I think, be helpful. I think another metaphor somebody mentioned is you want somebody who has seen what's around the corner. So yes, there are blind spots, things that we can't even anticipate. So having a mentor, will help us, navigate, I think those spaces, those blind spots.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. I think you've also, touched on, what lessons, can young women draw from your leadership journey. I don't know if you want to add more to it, over and above education and mentorship.
Yeah, so I think what I've learned very early on in my world is you need to be anchored on purpose rather. So what is your purpose? And I'll give you a simple example. When I grew up, I wanted to be a CA, and my purpose as to why am I choosing the career that I'm choosing was because I wanted money. Me, I wanted to be rich. I was very clear to say, guys, I want a career that's gonna make me live soft life and be comfortable. And when obviously I pursued the become accounting degree, I went that route and I became an accountant. And you know what? When as an accountant, I realized that debit and credits are not for me. I was not enjoying to be an accountant, and I still wanted money, right? And soft life. But I was like, you know what? I cannot be an accountant for the longest of time because it was not something I was passionate about. It provided such a great learning that I'm not gonna take away. As an accountant, you see the debits, the credits, the balance sheet, the income statement, the healthiness of the company. So it's everything that probably is good, and it has actually also given me an advantage to be a better leader today in terms of the financials, right? But it was not something that I was passionate about. So me, I love interacting with people. I like getting my hands dirty. I like to fix things, to be innovative. And as an accountant, it's standards, man. Debit and credits. What more can you innovate from debit and credit? So I never wanted to be confined and be defined by the rules. And I pivoted into a different career path. And guess what? I even thrived and found my purpose, and I was able to actually even make that back that I wanted to make, but in a different career path. So I think the advice that I'll give for everybody who wants to thrive is, first of all, find your purpose, because that purpose will anchor you when the going gets tough, but you have not achieved what you want to set yourself out to achieve. It will motivate you to keep going. But most importantly, be adaptable. I spoke about our environment being dynamic, the world changing. And if you don't change alongside the changes that we're seeing, if we are not adaptable, the chances are you are going to be very frustrated. So that adaptability and flexibility is very key. And I hear people saying, I'm not a leader. And my question will be, define leadership for me, right? And oftentimes people think that no, leadership is when you have a team of people that you're leading and seeing. No, that's not leadership. I always say that we are leaders in our own unique ways, right? And I found, or started being a leadership at age 6, believe it or not, right? I'm writing a book, so I'm not going to give you much about that story. But I didn't know at the time I was doing it that it was leadership. For me, it was like when the teacher is not in class, I'll be the one taking, at the time we were using chalkboard. I'll take a chalk and then go to the board and say, guys, let's practice our maths, right? For me at the time, I was like, I don't want distraction. I don't want people to be making noise. And I wanted to reinforce what I learned. But it was me taking leadership right there, right? And something that I grew up with, and I'm still doing it now, especially as a COO. I'm the one to say, but guys, people do get frustrated sometimes because I'll tell you in your portfolio what we need to do. And so I think it's exactly that you need to take charge of your life, of your career, of your environment, and take a lead, and don't wait for somebody to lead you, right? So I think that what is helping me and continues to help me as a leader today. And yes, maybe because I'm leading teams, I've got that title in my name, but I did not need to lead teams to be a leader. And especially for women, I mean, we know our background, we know where we come from, and how women were marginalized and probably still continue to be marginalized. We have achieve equality as women and representation as women. But don't think that somebody is gonna find you and give you something. Go find it yourself. Be curious. Go out there and see what's happening there. And if you hear that, and again, I'm not marketing myself, I'm not saying everybody should come to me, but if there's a Pulani who have achieved something, find out about her story. How did she get there? You know, because that story can actually inspire you, because you find that there's more Pulanis out there who come from very humble beginning, and but we managed to actually do well in life. So curiosity is very important. So stay curious and just know what's happening, because you never know where the opportunity will come from. And can I quickly share a story? So I've got an 18-year-old daughter who is doing first year of varsity, and I'm a student mother, I'm an academic. So all along I was like, you are gonna do business degree or IT, the world is going this route. And my daughter is I don't know if there's something called deep Christian, but she is a Christian child. She believes in God and she believes in doing good. And her purpose, she says, her purpose is to assist others, to thrive. And when she completed matric, I honestly thought we have agreed that she was going to do a science and a business degree, because I was like, I want you to have a big business. And she was like, no, no, no. My purpose is to assist people, and I'm going to study psychology. Dear child, you want to study psychology. But anyway, and she was like, you know what, ma'am, the world is changing, AI is there, and probably there's going to be a lot of automation, hyper automation and everything. I'm probably not needing to be technical or to study IT, but there is not going to be a lot of help when it comes to mental wellness. And then it obviously reminded me of the statistics that I've seen of how in South Africa, especially, how many people are suffering from mental health. And most of the people don't even know. So some people are diagnosed, great for them, but most people don't know. They become depressed, and we're like, okay, dear child, I think you're going somewhere, right? As we speak, she's truly is an A student. She's very vested. But something beautiful happened, Silibalo. While she's still, okay, she lives in Cape Town, she studies in Cape Town, she lives alone. It's a story for another day as well, because we have to teach her resilience, right? So that you are fit yourself. You need to test yourself before you tell other people what to do, right? And then anyway, she lives in Cape Town, and there's so many other opportunities. As we speak, she's looking into teaching English in Korea.
South Korea,
So I think that Tom say that young people, opportunities are out there, and the opportunities are international. Don't confine yourself to South Africa, even, right? And as much as she will become a good psychologist one day, I believe. But think about it. Teaching, you are dealing with people. You are dealing with students who probably are struggling. And then if you use your psychology degree to say, how do you get into the psyche of that person who's panicking and forgetting what they have studied because of the panic? How do you assist that student? So it's those kind of things to say, navigate your world, be flexible, but anchor whatever that you're doing on your purpose. So I know it's a long answer.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought it's important for us to touch on that.
Sure. No, thank you for that example, around being anchored on purpose. I think it just, put it in context. I think, as we, wrap up, I think it'll be, great just to hear your comments, around how do you find balance, between ambition, being authentic and well-being, so how do you balance all these key themes, as we close?
It's actually a very interesting question. I get asked about that all the time. It's like, oh, you are by the way, like every day, 2 hours at the gym, non-negotiable, right?
Sure.
That's 2 hours. I make time, and I still do my school drop-off for my 11-year-old, right? But anyway, I don't believe there's a balance. I always say there's no balance, there's alignment, because balance means 50-50 type of situation, right? Or 25, 100%. I mean, I know we love it, we want everything to sum up to 100%.
Yeah.
There's no I don't believe there's such a thing. So I think your question is around how do I find balance and how do I stay authentic and probably take care of my well-being. My well-being is priority number one because I always say this machine has to keep on going, and this machine is always refueled every day. Going to the gym for me means I'm taking all the stresses that I'm faced in my career, with my kids, with everyone else. After that 2 hours, guys, I kid you not, I come out a better person. I am happy. I always say the sweat is the gym is my happy place. I come up very, very happy. And then what I find and what worked for me is realizing where you at in the life stages, right? So having been ambitious all my life, it nearly costed me. And then I nearly burned out. And I'll take you back to 2010 when I was studying MBA at GIBS. So I was studying MBA. I had started a new job at Investec, Investec, the culture and the demands of the work. I was having, my daughter was 3 years. So it's MBA, it's new work, it's a 3-year-old. I nearly lost myself. It's a story for another day. But I resigned without a job because I was going insane. Literally, psychologically, I was not okay. Whereas I lost my brothers in the car accident. 4 people died in my home. My world came to a standstill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that on its own taught me perspective and taught me alignment, right? I didn't have to study MBA, guys, when I've just changed my careers, when my daughter was only 2.5 or whatever, 3 years, right? I could have studied maybe when she's 5. I don't know. I could have studied earlier before I start having. So, and because that would have allowed me to thrive without burning out, right? So as we speak, the reason why I would even still 30 minutes, 40 minutes of my busy schedule to be part of this important conversation is because I've put in structures and support systems, right? For this, at home, my husband is not a passenger. We are co-parenting. We equally have a role to play. At work, I've got heads under me, as an example. I've got managers, I've got team leaders. Each one of us, we're very clear as to what is expected of us. So I'm not doing my head's work. No. Whoever's reporting to me has got a role to play. Similarly, as an exec, I'm trusted with strategic execution or whatever you call it. I'm very clear. I know where to go and I know boundaries. So it's so important to also have boundaries because otherwise, everybody wants a piece of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably you also ambitious, you want to do everything and you will burn out. And the minute you burn out, guys, stress is real. I see people that are stressed. You can't even think effectively. And people think that if they're doing everything, they're being productive. You are actually not, right? So I always say it is very key to find alignment, not balance. There is no balance. There will be trade-offs. Something will have to take a back seat. Something will have to be a priority. But not everything will be a priority. So I check with myself regularly. I reflect a lot and I pivot where I need to pivot. So I think that's why I'm still energetic and I'm hardly sick, by the way. I make sure that I cannot afford to be sick. When I have flu, I always tell my kids, I don't go to a doctor. I don't like doctors much, and I'm not judgy. But I always say that when I'm sick, it's a sign that something is giving with my body. I had a touch of flu, or what was supposed to be flu, and I knew why my immune system is weak, and I had to go correct at the root and find myself again so that I can, when they say you take a step back to take 10 steps forward.
Yeah.
So I do that a lot, but I check with myself and I align with myself. There's no balance. I don't have a balance. Long story short.
No, awesome. No, thanks for that. Yeah, people are taking notes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, have. No, thank you for the time you've given us. Yeah, just to have this conversation. Yeah, yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you for your generosity in sharing these ideas, and yeah, we appreciate you, and yeah, hope you have a great afternoon, great day. I'm sure we are overdue for a coffee. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Keep on doing what you're doing. I love it. I support it. And yes, let's have coffee. It was great, being with you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All
Cheers.
the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Cool. No, thank you all for listening in and staying tuned for this segment. Yeah, I highly appreciate it. Also took a lot of notes, and thank you for our guests. I'm now write to them individually, thanking them, for the pearls of wisdom. With this, I'll sign out for the next segment. Thank you.
The mic is live. The youth are speaking. This is Youth Plug, where hustle meets opportunity,